So why is it that ignorance is some kind of virtue now? We see it everywhere. We're very forgiving nowadays of being foolish or coming up with the first idea, the first thing you can sell, and just putting it out there. I think it's because fundamentally we respect confidence. We respect the confidence to simply do something. And this is what I'm fixing in my life. This is what I'm tracking every day now. What did I do today to think less? What did I do today to do more, or to do even at the bare minimum intentionally? What did I do to continue a streak of removing thinking from every single part of my workflow, my writing, my YouTube scripting, anything that I want to do that's related to filmmaking and writing? Well, today I filmed something that was completely random. And in my next video project, I'm going to see how I can take absolute ignoramus filmmaking with no strategy and see if I can pull something out of it. It's about not caring what the strategy is anymore. Today, I watched a great YouTube video about picking a product, about finding one product, one solution, one customer, one media platform. And that's the quest that I'm on, that I think anyone who wants to make a serious effort at this highbrow, ignorant approach to business marketing, creating something of value on the internet, if they're serious about it, then they are going to find that one problem, that one solution, that one media platform. Now, I pick YouTube, I pick video vlogging, because it's probably the most, it's the thing I consumed the most. It's the thing I've become accustomed to. It's something very familiar, but it's challenging. How do you come up with a good script? Well, it comes down to authenticity, right? But authenticity is a little bit overrated. You see, an actor doesn't show up to a role trying to just be themselves. I mean, that might be very authentic, right? They could enthusiastically be themselves. At least the professional craft of acting, as it was maybe up until the last 20 years, an actor would study a role deeply and become the character, right? Well, isn't that what we're doing with business when we're thinking of a solution, when we're thinking about what story we're going to tell as a means of marketing the solution we have for others? That comes down to the empathy that we can put into the listener, the empathy for the audience. So the less polished our story is, then the more authentic, the more personal it needs to be. But the better our presentation skills need to be in the moment. But we can make up for something that may not be so polished by doing more research, by thinking harder. But that's the trap now, isn't it? We don't practice being the customer. But the difference between business and acting is that we don't need to look any further than ourselves. And it's a common motif in business, in content creation, is to think about the problem that you had a few years ago. Think about the younger version of you, and that could be where you find the product you need to sell. Now, the younger version of me a few years ago was somebody who was absolutely aloof to the speed at which people act on the internet. I did not connect how fast people deploy ideas and test them. So if you're watching this and you're somebody like me, then this is a call to harness this highbrow ignorance that I've been talking about into high-speed deployment. Now, I have absolutely no script here, but I can tell you that this video began with me talking about taking a project that has no structure to it and turning it into something valuable. And that's something I'll produce here in the next few days. Why would I do something like that? Well, that's the solution now, isn't it? Picking a project with absolutely zero strategy and then reverse engineering it to be something of value. Now, there's a few creators that I have in mind that I want to emulate over the coming weeks and months in terms of their visual style. They are in slightly different niches than my niche, but I can see the speed at which I simply selected some influences and have now a general target. The clarity of what I'm talking about, why I'm talking about it, becomes an emergent property of the process. So when I think back to my first days getting back onto social media after years of trying different things to very little effect, trying without really studying something that actually works, shooting in the dark, and then not sticking with something long enough to get the feedback loop. I would tell that younger version of myself, why don't you pick something that works? Why don't you pick a person that isn't even part of your niche, but is doing well in their niche? Now, this is advice that's everywhere. But how do we end up picking something that can work for us? Here's where negative emotion can be useful. The moment you see a video that begins to trigger you, if you will. I don't really like that phrase, but if they're bringing up something in you, you need to hold on to that emotion for a moment. I watched this creator. He has like an Australian accent or something. And he makes this great content about business. But it's the method of his storytelling that matters to me. I'm not an e-commerce person, so I'm not selling products in the way he is. But it's his absolute off-the-cuff kind of aesthetic. There's moments in there that are in his videos that have what you might call a pregnant pause, a long, drawn-out section that some major creators would scoff at, and they would say, no, this is going to hurt your retention. It didn't hurt my retention. So why shouldn't I create something like that? Why should you focus so much on the top of funnel type of creativity when it's clearly not going to work for you? So the other side of ignorance is stop paying attention to what is working at the top of funnel and try to find a happy medium between what works for you emotionally, something you actually resonate with, and then something that clearly has polish and talent that's been built over trial and error. I think the key to this highbrow ignorance is just like any other skill. You simply practice it in as many situations as possible. What can you do right this moment that might feel stupid, but is actually something that could be empowering? And this is like a few steps ahead of just being cringe for no reason. This is something we would tap into when we were children. This ability to pretend to be something because you aren't something yet. And maybe for many of us, we are eternal children. Now, there is a concept from Carl Jung, the philosopher, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. He talks about the puer aeternus. And that is an archetype that I realize I have played out over and over in my life. But can we take something like that, this eternal child, and turn that into something that actually serves us? I think the only way you can actually test that is the willingness to keep iterating. To keep iterating until something feels right. And for me, wherever these vlogs are going, I can tell it feels right.